the Galactic Empire had long forgotten what it meant to struggle. For centuries, they dominated the stars, expanding their reach into every corner of the galaxy. Their fleets were unmatched, their technology the envy of all known civilizations. When they issued a command, worlds bowed without question. Earth, they believed, would be no different. The Terran representatives stood in the Grand Hall of the Empire, dwarfed by the towering architecture designed to remind visitors of their insignificance. The Empire's emissaries were imposing, their regal robes draped over layers of ceremonial armor, symbols of a civilization that had known nothing but victory for millennia. With arrogance as thick as the air in the room, they spoke, "Earth must surrender. Integration into the Galactic Empire is your only option. Resist, and you will be crushed." The ultimatum was clear, delivered without hesitation, as if the outcome had already been decided. The galaxy had fallen into line long ago. To the Empire, humans were just another species on the list, a primitive, warlike race that had barely reached the stars, certainly no match for their might. But the Terran representatives stood calm. Unlike other species who cowered before the Empire's power, the humans held their ground with an air of quiet confidence. Their faces showed no fear, no anxiety. They simply listened. The Empire had observed Earth for decades, waiting for the right moment to swoop in and claim its prize. Yet, something about the humans had always unsettled them. The Terrans were unpredictable, evolving faster than the Empire could monitor. They had climbed from the dirt to space in mere centuries, and now here they stood, still raw but unervingly composed. The human diplomats exchanged a glance, as if silently communicating a message only they understood. Behind them, the Terran military leaders remained stoic. These were not the anxious, deferential creatures the Empire had expected. The humans were watching, listening, calculating. As the Empire's emissary continued to speak, listing the terms of surrender, something shifted. It was subtle, a glint in the eye of the lead Terran diplomat. There was something more beneath the surface. The Empire had grown fat on its victories, blind to the silent strength of those who had fought for every inch of progress. They underestimated Earth, seeing only what was on the surface, a world of squabbling nations barely united under a single banner. They saw no threat. They were wrong. The Terran diplomat spoke softly, offering polite words of gratitude for the opportunity to join the Empire. But beneath the cordial tone was a layer of steel. "We appreciate your generosity," the diplomat said, his voice even, betraying nothing. "However, Earth has always valued its independence." The Galactic emissary sneered, used to the empty bravado of lesser civilizations. "Independence?" he scoffed. "Do you not understand? We are offering you survival. You should be thanking us." Behind the scenes, far from the Empire's prying eyes, Earth had been preparing for this moment for decades. While the Empire had rested on its laurels, humanity had been building, advancing, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Their technologies, once crude, had leaped forward in ways the Empire had failed to notice. Artificial intelligence, stealth systems, and weaponry that could turn the tide of any war had been quietly developed. They had grown powerful in the shadows. The Empire had no idea. There was an eerie calm in the air as the meeting came to a close. The Empire expected submission, compliance, the usual folding of wills they had grown accustomed to. But as the Terran delegation departed, there was a sense of something different, something that didn't fit the Empire's neatly ordered vision of the universe. The humans hadn't submitted, not in the way the Empire expected. Instead, they had left with their heads high, and a silent promise lingered in the air, one the Empire, in its arrogance, had yet to understand. The Terrans were not cowed. They had heard the ultimatum, but they would not bend. In the halls of power, the Empire's leaders sat satisfied, certain that Earth would soon fall in line. They had faced no challenge in centuries, and their technology, though aging, was still unmatched by most of the galaxy. As far as they were concerned, the humans were already defeated. But Earth had other plans. The Terran diplomats returned to Earth, their polite expressions masking the intensity of the discussions that awaited them. The Galactic Empire had played its hand, confident that humanity would bend under the weight of its demands. Earth's response had been carefully measured, polite, respectful, and utterly non-committal. The galactic emissaries would leave thinking the Terrans were considering their options, possibly even leaning toward submission. In truth, the real decisions were being made far from the Empire's gaze. In the war rooms beneath the surface of the planet, Earth's leaders gathered. The illusion of diplomacy was fading fast. Behind closed doors, the polite facades dropped, replaced with grim determination. The Empire's ultimatum was more than a threat, it was a promise of subjugation, and everyone in the room knew what would follow if Earth gave in. The Galactic Empire had built its rule on oppression, draining the resources and autonomy of every world under its control. The only choice was resistance. But to resist such an overwhelmingly powerful force was madness, or so it would seem to anyone outside the room. The Galactic Empire had dismissed Earth as backward and primitive, and that was their greatest mistake. The Terran Empire, in its apparent weakness, had hidden its true strength. Years of rapid advancement had given them technologies that far outstripped those of the stagnant Empire. Stealth systems capable of rendering entire fleets invisible to enemy sensors. AI-controlled weaponry that could think and react faster than any organic mind. And there was more, much more, developed in secret, away from the prying eyes of the Empire. The Galactics were arrogant, relying on centuries-old technology that had seen little innovation. They had grown comfortable with their dominance, blind to the possibility that someone, somewhere, might have surpassed them. To them, Earth was just another world to conquer, its people just another race to bring under their heel. They didn't realize they were dealing with a species that had thrived on adversity, that had a history of turning the tables on those who thought them weak. The Terran military leaders were already moving into action. They knew they couldn't win in a direct confrontation, not at first. The Galactic Empire's fleet was too large, its reach too vast. But that wasn't how Earth intended to fight. Instead, they would strike from the shadows, using the element of surprise and their superior technology to cripple the Empire's forces before they even knew what had hit them. This wasn't going to be a war of attrition, it would be precise, surgical, devastating. Plans were laid out, strategies discussed. AI-controlled fleets would be deployed at key points across the galaxy, ready to intercept the Empire's forces before they could reach Earth. Stealth ships would slip past enemy lines, gathering intelligence, sabotaging infrastructure, and undermining the Empire's logistical support. Planet-scale weapons, hidden deep within Earth's core, were primed and ready, capable of delivering a blow that could cripple entire star systems. And yet, on the surface, humanity continued to play the role of the humble, uncertain species. Diplomats sent back carefully worded responses to the Empire, delaying, stalling for time, making it seem as though they were still debating their decision. The Galactics, so sure of their superiority, didn't suspect a thing. They believed the Terrans were scared, hesitating before the inevitable. Little did they know, every second they spent waiting was a second Earth spent preparing for their downfall. The Empire's hubris was their greatest weakness. They had grown so used to submission that they couldn't see the storm building right under their noses. Earth, they believed, was too small, too insignificant to pose any real threat. To them, humanity's cautious diplomacy was a sign of fear, not strategy. They didn't realize that every word, every delay, was calculated, designed to draw them deeper into the trap. As the final preparations were made, humanity stood at the brink of war, but they were not afraid. The Galactic Empire had come to conquer a primitive world, but what they didn't know was that Earth had been waiting for this moment. They had spent years watching, studying, and learning the Empire's weaknesses. Now, with their advanced technology in place and their plans set, they were ready to strike. The surprise counterattack would be swift, brutal, and decisive. The Galactics had no idea what was coming. The Galactic Empire's invasion fleet was the pride of their military, a juggernaut that had crushed countless worlds without resistance. As they approached Earth, the commanding officers expected this conquest to be no different. They envisioned a swift, decisive victory, a show of force to remind the galaxy of their dominance. To them, Earth was just another backwater planet, unworthy of serious concern. But as the fleet drew closer, something was off. Their long-range sensors flickered, and the readings from the planet below weren't what they had anticipated. The skies above Earth were empty, devoid of the defense forces they'd expected to encounter. No hastily assembled fleet rushing to protect the planet, no desperate signals of surrender. The Terrans, it seemed, were offering no resistance. That should have been the first sign, but the Empire's overconfidence blinded them to the danger. Without warning, the first strike hit. From seemingly nowhere, Earth's stealth ships emerged. Invisible to the Empire's sensors, they had been waiting, perfectly positioned for an ambush. Before the Galactic fleet could react, a volley of precision-guided missiles ripped through their ranks. Entire battleships were torn apart in seconds, their shields useless against the advanced weaponry Earth had developed in secret. Panic rippled through the Galactic commanders. They had never faced anything like this. Their ships, built for overwhelming force, were slow to adapt. The Terran forces moved with precision, each strike calculated to cause maximum damage with minimum effort. The humans were not fighting in the way the Empire was used to. This wasn't the chaotic, desperate resistance of a doomed civilization. It was coordinated, surgical, and ruthless. As the Empire's fleet scrambled to regroup, they found their systems malfunctioning. Communications were jammed, targeting systems scrambled, and navigation went haywire. The Empire's once vaunted technology, long considered the pinnacle of galactic advancement, was now hopelessly outdated. They had grown stagnant, relying on the same designs for centuries, while Earth had been quietly surpassing them in ways they could not comprehend. Earth's AI-controlled defense systems took over, launching wave after wave of attacks without hesitation. The humans had designed their systems to be faster, more efficient, and entirely independent of human error. Automated drones swarmed the invaders, overwhelming them with sheer numbers and ferocity. The Galactic ships, massive and slow, were helpless against the speed and agility of Earth's forces. Desperation set in among the Empire's ranks. They tried to mount a counteroffensive, but their weapons systems were compromised. Their computers had been hacked, their data corrupted. Orders sent to fire were met with nothing but silence. In contrast, Earth's forces moved with fluidity, their technology responding instantly to the commands of their leaders. It was as though the Terrans could see the Empire's every move before they made it, predicting and countering their actions with ease. On Earth, the military leaders watched the battle unfold with calm precision. Every move had been planned, every possibility accounted for. The Galactic Empire, with all its bluster and arrogance, had walked right into a trap. The humans hadn't needed to outnumber them, they just needed to outthink them. And that's exactly what they did. The once proud Empire's ships, symbols of galactic domination, were now little more than targets. Flames erupted from crippled vessels as they were systematically torn apart. The Terran forces pressed the advantage, striking with brutal efficiency. In the space of a few short hours, what had begun as an invasion had turned into a massacre, for the invaders. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the Empire's fleet began to retreat. It was the only option left to them. There was no victory here, only humiliation. What had started as a show of dominance had become an unmitigated disaster. The mighty Galactic Empire had been outmaneuvered, outgunned, and outfought by a species they had deemed insignificant. As the remnants of the once mighty fleet limped away from Earth, the message was clear. Humanity was not to be underestimated. They were no longer the primitive species the Empire had expected to crush. They were something far more dangerous. The shockwaves from the failed invasion reverberated across the Galactic Empire. What was supposed to be a routine conquest had turned into a disaster of unimaginable proportions. The Empire's leadership was stunned. For the first time in centuries, they had been bested, and by a species they had dismissed as insignificant. In the great halls of the Empire, whispers of blame turned into heated arguments. Factions within the ruling elite, once united by arrogance, now pointed fingers, each accusing the other of incompetence. How could they have underestimated humanity so profoundly? How had they allowed such an embarrassing defeat to happen? In their panic, the Empire's leaders scrambled to regain control of the narrative. But no amount of damage control could erase the fact that their mighty fleet had been routed, their ships reduced to burning wreckage. The loss had not only damaged their military strength but also their reputation as the unchallenged rulers of the galaxy. It was more than just a battle lost, it was the first crack in the facade of their dominance. While the Empire descended into disarray, Earth moved swiftly to capitalize on its victory. From hidden broadcast stations across the planet, humanity sent a message to the entire galaxy. It wasn't just a boast or a declaration of triumph, it was a statement of intent, delivered with the clarity and precision that had come to define the Terran approach. The broadcast was simple but powerful. To the Galactic Empire, the message began, "We are humanity. We are free. We will not be enslaved. Your attempts to conquer us have failed, and any future attempts will meet the same fate." The words were spoken without malice, but they carried the weight of absolute conviction. This was not a plea for negotiation or mercy. It was a clear and defiant statement, humanity would not bow. But the message wasn't just for the Empire. It was for all those who lived under its iron grip. The oppressed species, the subjugated worlds, those who had long dreamed of freedom but believed it to be impossible. To the people of the galaxy, the message continued, "You are not alone. The Terran Empire extends its hand in friendship. We offer you protection, and we offer you hope. The Empire's reign of terror can be broken. Join us, and together, we will build a future free from tyranny." Along with the message came footage. Terran diplomats revealed the full extent of Earth's military capabilities, showcasing their fleets of stealth ships, their AI-controlled defense systems, and weapons so advanced that they seemed almost otherworldly. The message was clear, humanity was not some fragile, isolated world. They were a force to be reckoned with, and they were offering that force in service of liberation. The footage shook the galactic leadership to its core. They had thought Earth's victory a fluke, a lucky strike born of overconfidence. But the sheer scale of the Terran military might, now laid bare for all to see, revealed a terrifying truth: the humans hadn't even used their full strength. They had defeated the Empire's fleet with only a fraction of their power. What they had shown was only the tip of the iceberg. The whispers of rebellion that had long simmered in the darker corners of the Empire now grew louder. For centuries, the Empire's subjects had grumbled in secret, their spirits crushed by the weight of galactic oppression. But now, for the first time, they saw a path to freedom. Humanity had done the unthinkable, they had defied the Empire and won. If Earth could stand against the Empire and survive, maybe others could too. Across the galaxy, minor factions began to openly declare their support for the Terran Empire. Small, oppressed worlds that had long been ground under the Empire's heel saw their chance. They reached out to Earth, seeking alliances, protection, and the possibility of a future without fear. It was the beginning of a revolution, one that the Empire had no way of stopping. The seeds of rebellion had been planted, and they were spreading fast. The Terran Empire, once seen as an upstart species barely worthy of notice, had become a beacon of hope for the oppressed. And the Galactic Empire, once thought unassailable, was now crumbling from within. The Galactic Empire, once the unshakable ruler of the stars, was now in disarray. Their defeat at Earth had exposed their vulnerabilities, and rebellion was spreading like wildfire. Factions that had been simmering in silence for centuries were now openly defying imperial control. The Empire scrambled to maintain order, but their efforts were disjointed, hampered by infighting and distrust among their ranks. Commanders bickered over whose fault the defeat was, while some quietly considered abandoning ship entirely. And all the while, Earth prepared its final strike. The Terran Empire moved swiftly and decisively. Their intelligence networks had already mapped out the Empire's key weaknesses, and with the galactic capital as their primary target, Earth's leaders knew this would be the blow that ended the conflict. The Empire's capital was a fortress world, heavily defended by layers of planetary shields, orbital cannons, and a vast fleet stationed nearby. But none of it would matter. Humanity's superior technology had already proven it could bypass the Empire's defenses. the stealth systems that had allowed Earth's ships to ambush the Galactic fleet were now refined, making them nearly impossible to detect. AI-controlled fleets coordinated flawlessly, with no need for hesitation or delay. As Earth's warships slipped past the Empire's defenses, the final assault was already underway before the Empire even knew it had begun. The battle started in space, as Terran ships engaged the remnants of the Galactic fleet. The Empire's ships were still vast and powerful, but they were sluggish, unable to adapt to Earth's rapid strikes. Human pilots, backed by AI support, danced around the Empire's slow-moving behemoths, dismantling them piece by piece. Laser fire lit up the dark void of space, but Earth's forces were relentless, cutting through the Empire's defenses with precision. As the fleet above crumbled, Earth launched its ground invasion. Human soldiers, clad in advanced powered armor, descended onto the Galactic capital. They were faster, stronger, and far better equipped than their Imperial counterparts. AI systems provided real-time battlefield analysis, giving them a tactical edge that no organic commander could hope to match. Imperial troops tried to mount a defense, but the chaos within their ranks and the superior coordination of Earth's forces turned every skirmish into a rout. The final battle took place in the heart of the capital. Imperial forces, desperate to protect their leadership, made a last stand at the command centers. But it was already too late. Human infiltration units had bypassed the outer defenses, using stealth systems to get inside the fortified complexes. By the time the main force arrived, the Empire's command structure was in complete disarray. Orders were lost in the chaos, and no one knew who was truly in charge anymore. In one swift operation, the leaders of the Empire were either captured or killed. The once mighty rulers of the galaxy, who had lorded over countless worlds, were now nothing more than prisoners. Some tried to flee, but there was nowhere left to run. The Galactic capital had fallen, and with it, the backbone of the Empire was shattered. As the news of the Empire's collapse spread across the galaxy, the remaining loyalist forces surrendered. There was no longer a cause to fight for. The Galactic Empire, which had ruled with an iron fist for centuries, had finally fallen. The galaxy was free. And at the center of it all, humanity stood victorious. They had not only secured their own freedom, but they had also liberated countless other species from the Empire's grip. Planets that had lived under the shadow of oppression for generations were now free to govern themselves. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy had a future that wasn't dictated by tyranny. But humanity did not claim the galaxy for itself. In the aftermath of the Empire's fall, the Terran Empire extended a hand of cooperation to the liberated worlds. Humanity, once seen as an underdog, now stood as a symbol of hope. They had proven that even the most entrenched powers could be toppled, and they offered the galaxy something new, an era of freedom, where cooperation, not domination, would guide the future. The galaxy, once ruled by fear, was now led by the ideals of the Terran Empire. And though humanity was at its head, they did not seek to rule alone. They invited the galaxy to join them in building something greater, a new era, where no species would live in fear of conquest, and where the strength of one would protect the freedom of all. Humanity had risen, and with them, the galaxy found hope.